Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've got an update on the situation happening between Pakistan and India and where we think the United States stands in terms of the situation. What's the future, especially when it comes to the United States India trade deal? We've been hearing rumors that the United States is going to potentially use India to box out China and gain leverage over China by agreeing to a free trade deal with India, with their capability, with how big their economy is, their manufacturing prowess, in terms of India being able to, at least for a time, make iPhones and produce other things that the United States needs that we would normally get from China. We're not trying to have India replace China, but you're not going to be able to build the factories and the manufacturing infrastructure necessary within the United States in that short period of time. You have to supplement it somewhere else, and that's how we're able to gain leverage over China, is through India along with other countries. That's why we've talked about, when we get the ball rolling when it comes to these trade agreements, it's going to force China to come to the negotiating table because we will have other options in terms of where our products can be produced. Now, we'd love for them to be produced domestically, but again, that takes time. But when it comes to this situation, Donald Trump is neutral on it. The United States is neutral. If the United States had to pick a side, it would certainly be India over Pakistan. There is fighting basically in between both countries within the Kashmir region. If you guys know, the British Raj, when they left in 1948, India became independent. The British Raj spanned both India and Pakistan. They worked together under the umbrella of British rule, and then they left, and there was land disputes, border disputes within the Kashmir region, which is in eastern Pakistan or western India. And so what happened was, in April, there's been on and off fighting. There's been 4 or 5 major regional wars since 1947, but there was an attack against Indian tourists. They say around 26 tourists, I believe, is the number that were killed. This was civilians. This is what it is. India said early Wednesday that it had conducted several airstrikes on Pakistan, hailing a victory in the name of vengeance for the terrorist attack that killed 26 civilians in Kashmir last month. But evidence was also growing that the Indian forces may have taken heavy losses during the operation. At least 2 aircraft were said to have gone down. And so there's fighting back and forth. People are wondering, these are both technically nuclear powers, both India and Pakistan. They have nuclear weapons. Could this escalate? Well, there's been fighting between these two countries in this disputed region, the Kashmir region, before, several different times. The hope is that there'll end up being some type of ceasefire, and I think that's what Trump is relying on. But again, it is interesting that this is happening, considering there's the idea to where India could be a little bit of a supplement to what China has been, at least when it comes to this trade deal for the United States, to where we could gain more leverage if we have a free trade agreement with India. Does this put some haze onto the potential trade deal? I don't think so. I mean, certainly you don't want this to continue to escalate and escalate and escalate until it gets to a point to where maybe it's not contained in terms of the regional aspect of it. But right now, we do believe it's regional. It's India, Pakistan. Again, there's been fighting going back to the late 1940s when the British left. So it's not like this is something crazy new. But we can relate this to the US-India trade talks. And by the way, India yesterday agreed to a massive trade deal with the UK, not the United States, the UK. There was originally a report that came out about a week ago, and there were some other big Republican influencers that tweeted about it, saying the United States and India had reached a trade agreement. It's not true, but we're getting close. JD Vance visited India about 2 weeks ago and said, this is the formal kickoff of the talks. We've agreed to start trade negotiations. And India said a few days ago, it came out in the news, 0 for 0, no tariffs, no reciprocal, nothing like that. That's what they want to do. And I think there will be a trade deal that gets done with India. Trump said there's going to be a major announcement on Thursday or Friday. That may have to do with Saudi Arabia in terms of them joining the Abraham Accords, because he's visiting Saudi Arabia next week. There's speculation. A lot of people are wondering, does it have to do with Greenland? There's reportedly more military exercises potentially happening. I don't think it has to do with Greenland. It may be, and it apparently, because I originally said I think it's the trade deal with India, because if you contextualize it, you understand that the United States and India have really gotten close. Again, Vance visited there. He said this is a formal kickoff. We're having great talks, and they started the trade talks, and then now we're hearing all this stuff about India, Apple going to India for at least a short period of time. I think Apple wants to produce all their iPhones in the United States, but they have said, and Tim Cook said, well, yeah, once we get the robotics to be able to do it, we're going to produce all the iPhones in the United States. We just have to get there with the technology. But when it comes to something like India and Apple and the relationship there and the United States using India, I had said, well, if Trump makes this huge announcement on Thursday or Friday, it's probably going to be the free trade deal with India that's going to kick off all the other trade deals as a cascade effect with Japan, with South Korea, with Vietnam, with Israel, with the UK, with the European Union, along with other countries. India would be the first domino, but then Trump said, well, no, it's not about trade. So maybe it is the Abraham Accords and Saudi Arabia joining those. But that's all speculation. We don't know exactly. The point of it is, when it comes to India, Pakistan, Trump wants neutrality in terms of the United States perspective. There's that video that was going around yesterday. I tweeted it about Trump saying, just let them fight each other. That was from, I believe, something else back in like 2016, 2017, his first term. But there's just, for the United States, in terms of India, Pakistan, there's a regional situation. It's happened several times before. It hasn't escalated to full-blown war that people say, well, this now it's going to. Of course, you got the people that say, well, nothing ever happens. And in this situation, let's hope nothing escalates to a crazy point. But there's been constant bickering within that Kashmir region, which originally was under the British Raj. They left, and it became an India versus Pakistan situation because they were both under the umbrella of Britain. And now, obviously, they have had some serious border disputes, and this is just another situation to where India says you killed 26 of our civilians, we have to respond, and then Pakistan maybe responds again. If there is a nuclear bomb that is detonated, it would be by Pakistan. I don't think India would launch the first one. India would retaliate, but we hope it doesn't get anywhere close to that. I'm just saying, based off of how powerful these countries are, India is ridiculously more powerful than Pakistan. That's just the reality in terms of their military might, in terms of their GDP, and the United States for sure. While they're neutral in this, they would pick India over Pakistan, I would say. For a number of reasons. But when it comes to it, the U.S. is neutral, and that's just the reality of it. And Trump, he's someone that is really against wars. We're getting these reports coming out now. The United States is done with the attacks against the Houthis. There's been an agreement to where the Houthis are not going to attack U.S. ships. And so now that's done. And maybe people are wondering, well, maybe because that's done, the Houthis being a proxy to Iran, maybe there's the big announcement on Thursday or Friday is a nuclear deal, a new nuclear deal after Trump ripped up the first one in 2017, but a new one now with Iran. But it seems like that's probably unlikely right now because the fourth round of talks with the Iranian officials that were supposed to happen last Saturday or the Saturday before were suspended indefinitely. And there's talks of Israel sabotaging the talks, and Israel wants to weaken Iran desperately. They need the U.S.'s help. The U.S. has said, no, it's not happening. Remember, it came out in the New York Times article about a week and a half ago. Tulsi said no. Trump says no. Vance says no. Vance didn't even want to attack the Houthis, but now they're done. They made an agreement with the Houthis. They're not attacking them anymore, and the Houthis are not going to target U.S. ships. So this is de-escalation. You also have, well, maybe that rumor or what Trump is talking about, teasing, maybe that is a 30-day ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine, which, by the way, Trump would get a lot of credit for that because Trump has had to work very hard. And I don't know if it is because there's been a lot of talk within Russia and Putin. They're not liking their current situation. There's a lot of pressure from the Kremlin onto Putin saying, you need to get more land. We've wasted too much. People don't look at that perspective. But when it comes to maybe it is a 30-day ceasefire, Trump has put serious pressure onto Russia by signing that minerals deal with Ukraine to where now we can fund Ukraine and really face no repercussions in terms of we're getting our money back, because that's the deal. The minerals deal with Ukraine was the money that we give them from when the deal is signed to whenever the war ends, in terms of that's the money that we're getting back. And that's why it was a good deal for Ukraine. That was the whole argument, grant versus a loan. And Zelensky won that argument. Because that's just the deal that was signed. But the point of it is, it doesn't even matter. The fact that we're arming Ukraine, you could say, well, that's escalation, but it's actually a deterrent for Russia because now they're going to have to invest a lot more to be able to gain leverage in terms of the front lines, and because now Ukraine is being funded by the United States and other NATO countries. What it is it's a de-escalation tactic through strength by Trump, and you can rearm Ukraine. And it's like, well, listen, it's our taxpayer money. We're getting it back through the mineral deal, hopefully. But the point of it is we're trying to de-escalate and tell Russia that you're not going to get any more land, or you're not going to get much more land. We're arming Ukraine right now. Come to the negotiating table. We want to do this. You still have the leverage. You're still going to be able to take the 4 oblasts. You're still going to be able to annex Crimea, and it's going to be recognized, but you're not getting any more than that. So that's the de-escalation there. So maybe it is a 30-day ceasefire, although I don't think it is, but that's another possibility. I'm just trying to wonder. But the point is with India, because they just signed this massive trade deal, this situation with Pakistan, you want to call it a war, you want to call it escalating tensions, whatever the verbiage you want to use of it, I think it's just escalating tensions right now. It's not going to prevent India from signing a massive trade deal with the United States, and that's what we're looking for. I view that as the first domino. Maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like, based off of what the Trump administration has said, they want to use India as the key leverage play against China. If we can get India, we can transfer some of the things that are produced in China to India. It's like, well, we want to produce domestically. We do, but it's more complicated than that. We can't just do it in a single day. You don't just wake up and you've got all these factories, you produce all this stuff. There's a whole supply chain. There's a whole infrastructure. It has to be built up. There has to be a country to take over that reign for a short period of time, or at least part of it, to be able to, because otherwise then China will still have leverage. Because like, what other country are we going to use? We have to rely on China. No matter what, we have to come crawling back to China. Well, if we have India, we don't have to rely on China. Now we're negotiating with China from a much better position of strength if we have deals done with India and other countries. So see how that works. But yeah, when it comes to India, Pakistan, we want the fighting to be over. There's been strikes back and forth, Pakistan and then Indian. And so listen, the United States is neutral on the situation. There's been fighting there. There's been 4 or 5 bigger wars that have happened, and so look, it's just another one. It's a regional conflict, and hopefully it doesn't escalate into anything crazy, but we will have to see. And the hope is that we get this deal done with India to where we can really pressure China, and we get other deals done after India. It's going to be a domino effect, I think, and maybe there's other countries that do deals first. I mean, when it comes to how intricate these deals are, the deal with India is going to be pretty significant. There's other smaller countries that I'm sure are going to be a lot easier in terms of negotiations, but it does seem like nobody wants to really be the first country to negotiate with the United States outside of India or maybe Japan. I know there's been some serious talks happening with Japan. That was rumored a few weeks ago, so that's another one to look out for. But that is just the current update when it comes to India, Pakistan. Hopefully it stays regional. Hopefully there ends up being some type of negotiated ceasefire. There's been several ceasefires in the past, and it's just a standard regional tension right now between those two countries within a border dispute in the Kashmir region, which both countries claim parts of. And so it becomes complicated in terms of that. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.